Welcome again, one and all. And here we are inside the Kabbalistic tree of life. And today we're talking about the architecture of emanation. Emanation means how something is set in motion and then it develops and continues to develop into something else, more complex structures. Okay, so that is emanation. So the next slide, the story of the Kabbalah begins in the universe. So here's this universe, and the universe starts out as empty. Right now we're looking at a full universe, but it starts with nothing. In fact, you could even wonder if there is a universe. This story that begins to emerge is a cosmological story. And cosmological means cosmos means order. And it's the order and the study of the order of the universe unfolding. Okay, now this is a story, though. It's not necessarily true, but it is the story that's told Kabbalistically about how the universe begins and then unfolds. So here we go. All right, next slide. In the beginning, there was light, a light. And sometimes this light is referred to as an eye in the center of the universe. Sometimes it is said that the universe began, we're talking about our universe, we live in a multiverse, most likely. Our universe begins when the eye opens. So here comes the eye, a little slit, the eye opens, and now there is a point of light. If there was anyone to see it, which there isn't yet, what they would see would be this point of light and this eye just opening to reveal the point of light. Okay, sometimes that eye is said to be the all-seeing eye. We as humans like the personification of these energies. It makes it easier for us to understand. However, I'm not going to go into the personification of it today. I'm just going to say point of light. And you can personify it if you wish in any way you would like to do that. But point of light, okay, so first, point of light, issuing out of or within the world without end. Here it comes. Okay, next slide. From that point of light, now it comes out of the eye. Lights begin to come out of the eye. This is the story. In the beginning, from this point of light, two spheres manifest. It starts with the first two spheres, which will differentiate into sets of charged opposites, but everything just hangs in balance in the beginning. So all the potential begins to emerge, just the potential. Nothing's happening, just the potential, which is not yet set in motion. Okay, then next slide. This is unmanifest force and form just hanging in the universe. And now we have three cosmological spheres out of which all manifestation will emerge. Okay, these three spheres are named Kabbalistically as Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or. also, there are various spellings. This is a transliteration from Hebrew, Ein Sof Or. So Ein, E-N, I spelled it E-N. I don't think I spelled it E-N all through all of my materials. Sometimes I spell it differently. A-I-N is a very common spelling. A-I-N-S-O-P-H, Ein Sof Or. Okay, Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or. Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or then create 3 rings. It's called the 3 rings of power out of which the universe will form. So then we look at the next slide, and we see these 3 rings. And these are 3 rings now at the heart of the universe. So this is a common depiction, the 3 overlapping rings. These 3 rings of unmoving universal force, and they will contain universal form, like form and force in the universe. They will contain eventually matter and energy. But right now, nothing's happening, and it's just all the potential. They're called ring cosmos, ring chaos, and ring pass not. The ring cosmos is called Ein, E-N or A-I-N, ring cosmos, Ein, and it means nothing, nothingness. It's called negative existence. It's called radiant darkness. It doesn't move, but it's part of the balanced pairs of opposites. So now here's where the story changes and shifts a little bit, because so we have 3 rings, and you're probably saying, well, which is which right now? I'm looking at these 3 rings, which one's which? Okay, different people, everyone talks about the 3 rings, but they put the order of them differently. And this has been going on. This is like a game of telephone that's been going on for hundreds of years, where you pass it down to the next person. The person hears it slightly differently. It gets shifted and changed. It's been passed down in a number of Western mystery schools. This is the Western mystery school tradition that we are in, and that you are in, and that we are studying right now. So here's the Western mystery school. I'm going to put ring cosmos right now on the lower right side. Okay, so there is going to be the ring cosmos, which is nothing. And then we go to the ring on the left at the bottom. That one is ring chaos. Ring chaos, Ein Sof. E-N-S-O-F. And again, you can spell it A-I-N-S-O-P-H if you want to look it up further. This is positive existence. The other one is negative existence. This one is positive existence. So they're charged forces, negative and positive. The positive existence is about fullness, limitless potential, potential for movement, potential for creation, all the possibility of spirit, heart, mind, and body in the universe is contained in this ring of power. The geometry of the universe, of the formation of the universe, is contained in this ring, which is not yet forming and not yet moving. And then the last ring, which is on the top, is called the ring pass not, which To me, this one is really interesting because I kept hearing about it. Oh, the ring pass knot, ring pass knot, ring pass knot. I'm like, what's the ring pass knot? What's the ring pass knot? And eventually learned that it's called the ring pass knot because we can't possibly understand it, move beyond it, or see it. So ring pass knot just means we can't go through. Maybe they say when we die, we can pass through the ring pass knot so we know all. We know all. But this is a different subject. This is a different subject. And I'm laughing about that because being someone who sometimes communicates with the dead, personally, I don't think the dead are omniscient. That's blasphemy. I don't think the dead are omniscient necessarily. We'll talk about that later. And speaking of the dead, what I want to share with you right now is Carl Jung. Oh boy, he studied this material. I don't know if you know that he was into Kabbalah, studying Kabbalah. I'm thinking of all the different people who have been into studying Kabbalah over the years. Hermann Hesse, who worked with Carl Jung, many, many people studied this material and got great information and great stories out of it. Carl Jung did not want to advertise that he was working with this material, so to speak, because he was afraid that it might damage him in some ways in his career. So there were some things that he worked with that he said he didn't want anything published about that until sometime after he died. Some things slipped through the cracks earlier. One that he did, and this is so great if you want to get into this, he did something called the 7 Sermons to the Dead. And in the 7 Sermons to the Dead, he talks about these 3 rings of unmoving universal potential. In fact, it's his sermon number 1. So I want to give it to you in his words, how he perceived it, because people perceive it differently. That's Kabbalah, to receive. He starts with, this is in the first sermon to the dead. And he starts with this preamble that says, 7 exhortations to the dead, written by Basilides in Alexandria, the city where East and West meet. Basilides was a philosopher, a Greek philosopher, and Carl Jung channeled him. He went into the tower he built and he created, and he sat in the tower and channeled Basilides. So he's in there channeling Basilides whereupon the dead come and knock on the door and enter the room and ask Carl Jung as Basilides to teach them. So he gives the dead 7 sermons. He offers 7 sermons to the dead. So here's the first part of the first sermon. First, he writes, the dead came back from Jerusalem, where they did not find what they were seeking. They asked admittance to me and demanded to be taught by me, and thus I taught them. Hear ye, I begin with nothing. Nothing is the same as fullness. In the endless state of fullness is the same as emptiness. The nothing is both empty and full. One may just as well state some other thing about the nothing, namely that it is white, or that it is black, or that it exists, or that it exists not. That which is endless and eternal has no qualities, because it has all qualities. The nothing or fullness is called by us the pleroma. Pleroma is spelled Pleroma. And I looked it up. It's also used in medicine, that term, a pleroma, and it means an amassing, such as a nexus or an amassing of nerves or something like that is called a pleroma. So it's a massing. So he picked the term, Carl Jung picked the term pleroma. He's the one who created that, I believe, that term. In it, in the pleroma, thinking and being cease, because the eternal is without qualities. In it, there is no one, for if anyone were, he then would be differentiated from the pleroma and would possess qualities which would distinguish him from the pleroma. In the pleroma, there is nothing and everything. It is not profitable to think about the pleroma, for to do so would mean one's dissolution. We ourselves, however, are the pleroma. So it is that the pleroma is present within us. Even in the smallest point, the pleroma is present without any bounds, eternally and completely. For small and great are the qualities which are alien to the pleroma. The pleroma is the nothingness which is everywhere, complete, and without end. So that is Carl Jung's take on it. And it's interesting to me when he says, and most end here, it is not beneficial to think about it too much. And yet everybody who writes about Kabbalah tries to think about it, and they think about it in different ways. And usually they wind up with these rings hanging in balance. So Carl Jung goes deeper into the rings hanging in balance and what they're composed of. Ring cosmos, ring chaos, ring pass not. He does not use that language, but he uses the balanced forces and forms that are hanging as one. Okay, now just another note. Ein Sof, which is positive existence and limitless potential, has been called by Stefan Heller, who was the director of the Gnostic Society. He once said, it's like the realm of the gods, limitless potential. That's where all the gods live, and they're going to awaken out of the limitless potential of the universe. And he said, this is like waking up on a Saturday morning, feeling like all the world is in you, all the potential. You don't have to work. There's nothing happening. There's nothing going on. And you start thinking, wow, I could do anything. I could be anything. Then you get out of bed and you start narrowing it down. And then you realize, oh, I think I left a sink full of dishes from last night. So then you start washing the dishes, and then you start moving through the day, doing all the stuff that you have to do, and you move out of the state of potential into this state of becoming in accordance with the conditions all around you, right? So we have that feeling of limitless potential. We know what it is, but then we start having to narrow it down. So the way that we narrow it down is really important, what we decide to do with our lives and our time. Okay, so now we have this triad of possibility, these three rings of unmoving universal potential. Then we go to the next slide, and emerging out of this triad of possibility, the creation of the cosmos comes. It's going to be set in motion by this triad of energies, the negative, the positive, and the infinite source of all that is, the point of light in the very beginning. Okay, here we go. Okay, next slide. What sets it in motion? Well, this is really interesting to me. It's set in motion by a sound vibration. This is as far as science can go, really. Okay, so this wave, a sound wave, moves, and all of a sudden, all of it starts to spin. a sound wave interrupts the balance, interrupts everything hanging in balance. Okay, so some call this mysterious sound vibration the Big Bang. Okay, which I'm not going to go into that right now, but that started as a joke on a radio show and it stuck, the Big Bang theory. Okay, some call it the Big Bang. Some call it the Word. In the beginning was the Word. Some call it Om. That's the sound at the center of the universe. Okay, so call it what you want. Something has to start everything moving. It's a mystery. Okay, next slide. This sound vibration starts everything swirling, swirling and swirling and swirling. And those rings of power start to swirl together faster and faster, tighter and tighter, swirling, 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 until suddenly something moves out of the center of those 3 rings of power. This vibration ultimately is going to start a flow of matter. This matter, this mind and this matter is going to start swirling into all kinds of potentials and bodies that move out of it. Okay, so the next slide. A first stage begins, a first point that moves out of those 3. So we have the 3, they swirl together, and what happens is at first a point emerges, a first stage of manifestation, and this first point is going to be a new center of potential. And then, so in a way, it's like a mirror of those 3 rings that were unmanifest, but now it's going to start to manifest. So the first one is a point of potential. And then again, out of this point of potential, 2 more are created. So this is going to be where the universe gets to begin to express its hopes and its dreams. Imagine that we live in a universe that is on the adventure of discovering its own being and what could happen. I'm just throwing that in and making that up. Okay, so, but first, here we have a point, and then the next slide, out of this new point in the center, 2 more points again are created, and these points are created male and female, or positive and negative, charged energies, polarized forces. And here, all of the sacred geometry of the universe is going to emerge from these 3, from the source and then from the 2 polarized forces. So it starts to flow. It starts to flow out, and it flows out into what Kabbalists call the first triangle of the tree of life. So this is our next slide. This is the upper triangle of the tree of life. And when we look at this slide, what we see, this is from Tarot of the Spirit, we see behind number 1, the first sphere, we see those 3 rings of power. The ring cosmos, ring chaos, ring past not. There they are behind that first movement of the point, which is centered in the middle of those 3 rings. And here comes this point. And then from the point, the first point that emerges, we see the blossoming into the first triangle of the tree of life. Manifestatio. I just saw that slide. Manifestation is underway. Here we go. Now, the architecture of emanation begins to unfold. 1, 2, and 3. And those are Hebrew words that are unfolding there. They've been named. Keter means crown. It's the crown of creation. Hakma, number 2, means wisdom. And then Bina, number 3, means understanding. Okay, and from these 3, the rest of the tree of life is going to emerge. This is a reminder. All the 1s in the tarot fit in sphere number 1. All the 2s fit in sphere number 2. All the 3s fit in sphere number 3. So eventually the tarot is going to occupy the whole tree of life. And also you can see the Fool connecting number 1 and 2. You can see the Magus connecting number 1 and 3, and the Empress connecting 2 and 3. So that is called, taken together, it's called the supernal triangle. Okay, now everything begins to flow. So we look at the next slide. And again, here's the supernal triangle from which all else will emerge. The 1, 2, and 3. It's called the supernal triangle. Supernal, the top, the beginning. And I also call it, and I prefer calling it, the cosmological triangle. Cosmological, because it's going to begin to tell the story of the universe and also the story of our lives. This is the intersection between the universe and all the manifest world. So from those 3 points, all the rest of the points emerge. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Just for your information, just so you know, the number 4 is the sphere of Hesed, is mercy. Gevura is severity. Tiferet, this is number 6, is beauty. Netzach, number 7, victory. Number 8, Hod, splendor. Number 9, Yesod, foundation. And 10, Malkut, kingdom, the kingdom. That means all of manifestation. So that's just so you know, you can look it up later. Okay, then next slide. From these pillars of light, from this supernal triangle, the beginning happens of the tree of life, and it starts to catenate. Catenate's one of those words that you will see when you look at this material. Catenate means it now it can give birth to itself. So from these first 3, everything moves, falls into a self-generating system. Okay, then the next slide is, the first thing that happens is 3 points of light create the 3 pillars. It's called the 3 pillars of the tree of life, which surge into manifestation. Okay, then the next slide. These pillars are rooted in the cosmos above. Okay, so we see the 3 pillars on the tree of life. We'll have another slide showing those. So these 3 pillars on the tree of life, they come out of those first 3 rings of power. They emerge out of those 3 rings of power, these 3 pillars that begin to happen. That is called being rooted in the cosmos above. It's not really above, it's the center of the cosmos. But from where we stand, it feels like it's above. So rooted in the cosmos above, those are the upper roots. And those 3 rings are also considered to be the upper branches of the tree of life. The tree of life branches into the cosmos. Okay, the next slide. So those branches, they're branches, but they're also roots, because all of it is rooted in the universe. These 3 pillars will root in manifestation, and then they will uphold the whole process of creation. This is what's told in the cosmological story of the unfolding emanating or catenating tree of life. Okay, so then the next slide, we have the 3 pillars of the tree of life, which are the 3 pillars, also called the 3 pillars of the universe. And we have them on this slide. It is 3 pillars upholding the positions where the 1 through 10 appear on the tree of life. Okay, so these pillars, the pillars are considered to be male and female, or positive and negative, because they're polarized and they're charged. Now here's another place where everybody agrees that there are 3 pillars, and it's funny because this is just a story anyway, but everyone agrees there are 3 pillars on the tree of life. Okay, what people don't necessarily agree on is which pillar is on the right and which pillar is on the left. Which is, we've talked about this before, but it's because either you're facing the tree of life or you're backing into the tree of life. Because if you're backing in, it looks one way. If you're facing it, it looks another way. I usually use the version of you are backing into the tree of life. So the right pillar actually would be the one on the right side of your body, the right side of yourself, if you're backing into the tree of life. So the right pillar would have Bina at the top. The left pillar would have Hakma at the top. Okay, so Bina, understanding right pillar, for example. Okay, so that's called the female pillar, the one on your right if you're backing in. It's also called the pillar of judgment. And on that pillar of judgment, it also has to do with severity, which you wouldn't think of as female, but severity, it's the negative or receptive pillar. It's the pillar of form, where form is created, and it's a pillar of matter. And it is black. It's considered to be a black pillar. And if you look at the bottom of the pillar, you see a little black rectangle. That just indicates, okay, this is the black pillar. And then the male pillar, which would be the one on the other side with Hakma at the top, Hakma, wisdom, at the top, that's called the pillar of mercy. And it's got the white rectangle at the bottom of the pillar to indicate it's a white pillar. It's considered to be a pillar of activity, of force, whereas the female pillar is form, creating form. The male pillar creates force, and it's all about spirit and energy moving. Then the middle pillar is called the pillar of mildness, the pillar of equilibrium, and it is considered to be the gray pillar. So you're going to see different depictions of this. You'll see depictions where one pillar is all black, one pillar is all white, and then one pillar is gray. Well, I like to think of it as a silver pillar. The silver pillar, instead of the gray pillar, silver brings all the energies together. And where we really want to live from, the place we want to live from, is really in the middle of the silver pillar, where we're drawing from all the energies and holding all the energies at once. Okay, so next slide. Okay, here's the middle pillar illuminated. So this one is called the pillar of wisdom. And again, it's called the gray pillar. And let's call it the silver pillar. Okay, so you see, if you want to, okay, I made that up. So if you talk about the silver pillar, no one's going to know what you're talking about. If you talk about the gray pillar, everyone knows what you're talking about in the Western Mystery School. Okay, so the gray pillar, or the silver pillar, goes from the number 1, Keter, to the 6, Tiferet, to the 9, Yesod, to the 10, Malkut. Okay, so that's the pillar. And then it has the paths going between and connecting the upper path, the priestess, the path, next one down is temperance. the next one down is the universe. So those taken together constitute the middle pillar. Okay, so next slide. That's the pillar. That is the pillar of equilibrium. And it's wisdom. Okay, so again, here's the middle pillar. It consists, excuse me, of spheres 1, 6, 9, and 10. So it's really interesting if you line up the tarot cards, 1, 6, 9, 10, and then put these three in the middle, the priestess, temperance, the universe. And you can start to feel the energies of this middle pillar and how the middle pillar moves from the top to the bottom or from the bottom to the top. You can look at it moving in either direction. Okay, then the next pillar, this is the male pillar. Okay, so what's on the male pillar? So it's three different depictions. In the middle, you can see the whole male pillar. And then on the left side, it's the top of the male pillar, which goes from 2 to 4. That's the Hierophant in that position. This is just so you know. This is so you know. And then on the right side, we have between the 4 and the 7, we have the Wheel of Fortune. So that's where they fit on the male pillar. So there's the male pillar coming down. Okay, then it's called the white pillar. Then the next slide, just another depiction of the male pillar. So here are the components of the male pillar, spheres 2, 4, and 7, and then the Hierophant and the Wheel of Fortune. So that's on the male pillar. Okay, then we look at the female pillar next. Okay, and here's the female pillar. And on the female pillar, we have, so this is the same as with the male pillar. This is the black pillar, but it's the other side. So in the middle side, we have the whole pillar. And then in the left, we see the Chariot connecting number 3 and 5. Then on the other side, we have the Hangman connecting 5 and 8. Later, we will see how all this applies to tarot reading and what those pillars mean in terms of reading. Okay, next slide. Here's just more on the female pillar. Female pillar, spheres 3, 5, and 8, Chariot above, Hangman below, making those connections down the female pillar. Okay, then next, what I'm giving you right now is the structure of the tree of life. So we have 3 pillars, and then we have 3 girders, crossbars. That girder is a building term, those crossbars that are going to stabilize those 3 pillars. So between 3 and 2, 2 and 3, that is the path of the Empress that stabilizes the top of the tree of life. The next one down between the 4 and 5, 5 and 4, that one is strength that stabilizes between those 2 spheres. Then the next one down between 7 and 8 is the Tower. Okay, and if you think, well, how could the Tower stabilize anything? Well, it does, because it's a constant, active, moving energy that keeps refining between the 7 and the 8. It keeps refining the way we understand and the way we know. Okay, so these are the 3 girders of the tree of life that stabilize the pillars. Okay, so what's next? So this is the architecture. We're talking about the architecture of the tree of life. So again, here are the 3 girders: the Empress, strength, and the Tower. Those are the 3 girders of the tree of life. Okay, so those are important. Those 3 are important because they have a certain power to really bring things into a stabilized structure. Okay, and we're going to be coming into the year of strength soon, by the way. Okay, next slide. Okay, from those three girders, three triangles emerge. Okay, not necessarily in this order, but at the same time, maybe as the emergence of these three triangles, you have the girders. But these are architectural terms, architectural pieces, and it all happens at once. So the top triangle is called the supernal triangle. We already talked about that, or the cosmological triangle. The next triangle down is called the ethical triangle. That's composed of spheres 4, 5, and 6, ethical triangle. The next one down is it's called the astral triangle, 7, 8, and 9. And the astral triangle is about the formation of, has to do with the formation of the personality. It's also called the personality triangle. And you can also think of it as the formation of the self as personality, as being, as unique being. So we'll revisit this in a minute, but I want to point it out while we're looking at this slide right now, that if you want to change something in yourself, so there's that 7, 8, and 9, that's yourself, your personality. If you want something to change, something to shift in your life, what you really need to do is go back into your ethical triangle. This is the part of yourself that determines right and wrong. It's ethical. It's 4, 5, and 6. 4 is the stabilization, 5 is cataclysm, blowing up, and then 6 is a balance between. Okay, what do you want to stabilize? What do you want to take out? And so on. Okay, so you need to go back and look at your ethical triangle if you want to change yourself or your life. What needs to be built up? What needs to be taken down? But probably you're not going to be able to change that really significantly unless you go back into the supernal or cosmological triangle, which constitutes your belief system in terms of the way the universe works, or the workings of the universe. So if you go back into your cosmological worldview, it's going to create a new set of ethics as it changes, as your view of the cosmos changes. That's, for example, when you have a spiritual awakening of some kind, your view of the cosmos changes, your ethical system changes, and then your personality begins to change. And this is the movement through these triangles. Okay, so then let's go to the next slide. Okay, again, here is the supernal or cosmological triangle, and it's composed of the 1, 2, and 3, the Fool, the Magus, and the Empress. So those are the constituent parts of the supernal triangle. And then remember, the Empress is the girder. You don't have to memorize all of this. This is just so that you know it's there. Okay, next one, next slide. Okay, here's the ethical triangle, composed of spheres 4, 5, and 6. And those cards, the tarot cards, are strength, which is the girder, karma, and the hermit. So these are all going to be components of the ethical triangle. And if we want to understand our ethical system, these are the components that we would look at right here to understand our sense of right and wrong. It's like strength is about healing. I don't want to go into each card right now because we don't have time, but strength is about healing. Karma is about understanding the past and what we're creating in the present. And the hermit is also about healing. And it's about going into those deep interior spaces and understanding the self and the mastery of the self. Okay, so next slide. Here's the astral triangle, or the personality triangle, or the personal triangle, composed of spheres 7, 8, and 9. And the 3 cards are the Tower, the Star, and the Sun that compose that triangle. Okay, so our personality moves around these spheres and these cards. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so this is the composition of the tree of life, essentially. So we have 3 roots above. And so those are the 3 roots I talked about that issue out of an empty universe to start with, by first with that, the point of light, and then those emerging of those 3 rings. And then we have 3 pillars, the right pillar, the left pillar, and the middle pillar. We have 3 girders across the tree, and we have 3 triangles. The 3 triangles composed of the 1, 2, and 3, then the 4, 5, and 6, and then the 7, 8, and 9. By the way, the 1, 2, and 3 is an upward pointed triangle. 4, 5, and 6 is a downward pointed triangle. 7, 8, and 9 is a downward pointed triangle. So you can draw the tree of life in 10 points. The first part of the tree of life would be an upward pointed triangle, 1, 2, and 3, just 3 points, 3 points in the dirt. That's how, or 3 points on the chalkboard or something like that. Upward pointed triangle. The next 3 points are a downward pointed triangle, and that's going to be 0.4, 0.5, and 0.6. Next 3 points down, a downward pointed triangle, 7, 8, 9. That's it. 1 upward pointed triangle, 2 downward pointed triangles, and then 1 dot on the bottom, and that's going to be 10. Point number 10, which stands alone, all by itself. So it's actually really simple, even though it looks really complicated. Okay, so next slide. Okay, and here's the final point at the bottom. The final point at the bottom is called creation completed. That's a number 10, creation completed. It's done. So this is how creation is created and how it creates itself. Kabbalistically, that's the story via the tree of life. So we keep working the tree of life to change what it is. Okay, so then the next slide. Also, this tree of life multiply into 4 worlds. We can look at the entire tree of life in the world of spirit, which is the world of fire, and that's the 10 tarot cards in the suit of fire, and that is called 10 stages of emanation of the spirit, or in the suit of fire. Okay, we can also look at it, take the suit of water and place it on the whole tree of life. That's the world of water, the world of the heart. 10 stages of emanation, place it on the entire tree of life, and we can see all the stages and steps the heart goes through, the emotions go through. The world of heart is also of intuition, all these different aspects that have to do with water. Same with the world of mind or consciousness, 10 stages of emanation. Same with the world of the body, of earth, of matter, how matter appears in 10 stages of emanation. So we've got the whole tree of life appearing in 4 different trees. So sometimes it's depicted that those 4 trees are overlaid one on top of the other, straight on top of the other, just 1, 2, 3, and 4. Or it's depicted that the tree of life is one huge long tree, and it blossoms into these 4 trees. So there'll be like 40, instead of being 10 stages, there'll be like 40 stages on a huge long tree of life. So when you look this up by different people, you're going to see different versions and visions of what those 4 worlds are as they work together. This is something that is challenging to depict, and people have depicted this in many different ways. Okay, but everybody agrees that there are 4 worlds and 10 points. right? 10 points, 3 triangles, 3 pillars, everyone agrees on that. It's depicted differently though. Okay, and sometimes, as I said, the right is depicted as the left, is depicted as the right. That's partly true because both sides mirror each other and each contains the properties of the other plus more. Okay, so, and sometimes less. Okay, so next slide. Okay, within these workings of the universe, the whole of manifestation emerges, the whole of creation. Next slide. Which is rooted in cosmos above. Those are called the upper branches or the 3 rings. And next slide. Rooted in cosmos below. So these are the lower branches that reach into the manifest world and create the manifest world. And so they're rooted deep into ourselves, deep in the earth. All of this structure, this dynamic structure, becomes a channel for universal energies. And these universal energies, forces and forms, they're called. This is the process of manifesting and unmanifesting through these channels. Everything comes into manifestation through the architecture of the tree of life and moves out of manifestation. Okay, so next slide. Okay, and once again, this is a different depiction of the tree of life, different and the same. Okay, once again, the total architecture of the tree of life fits on this glyph, they call it. This is the glyph of the tree of life. 3 branches or roots above, 3 below, 3 pillars, 3 girders, 3 triangles, 10 points or spheres, 10 points surrounded by spheres. They become spheres. The point is the center of the sphere. 4 worlds. And the cosmos branches into manifestation. Okay, so here's the tree of life. And I wanted to point out on this particular tree of life depiction, on the top, you see, instead of seeing 3 rings overlapping, you are seeing 3 curves of Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or. So this is another way that these rings are depicted as 3 curves. And the order of that might also be slightly different, but it's usually always, I think it's always 3 rings or 3 curves. Okay, so on this one, the top or the outer is Ein. The second one in is Ein Sof. And then the one that's closest in to sphere number 1 is Ein Sof Or. And so what they're depicting on this one is they're depicting the world beginning to come into manifestation. Okay, the next slide. Any of these elements, those are elements like the pillars, the triangles, any of these elements in any of the 4 worlds becomes a tarot reading or a teaching in and of itself. Okay, so for example, we've talked about the middle pillar a number of times before. But again, if you want to change something, you can take a journey up the middle pillar. You start out in sphere number 10, and that is your everyday life, whatever that is. You step into the universe as the next part of the path up. The universe is all possibility. All possibility is at hand. Then you travel into sphere number 9, which has a lot to do with the unconscious, the subconscious. It's also the subconscious repository of everything from your life that is poured into it. You step from sphere 9 into temperance, the desert way. That is a deep vision quest seeking. You emerge at sphere number 6, which is the sphere of balance, truth, and beauty. And you think, oh yeah, okay, I'm done. But it turns out you're not going to be done, because the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to pass into that channel of the priestess, the path of the priestess, where you're going to move into a deep understanding of what you're doing here, of the Akashic records, that's the book of life and all of that, and where you're going to learn about Dot, which we're not going to talk about today, the sphere of knowledge, and then straight up into number 1, the source, Keter, and then back down the tree. And then back down the tree. So you can travel any one of these. You can do a tarot reading on it. How would you do a tarot reading on this? Take that middle pillar and imagine that those elements of the middle pillar are going to be your outline or your diagram for the tree of life, for your tarot reading, I mean. Then draw cards, put a card in number 10, a card in the universe, a card for number 9, a card for temperance, a card for number 6, a card for the priestess, a card for number 1. That's how you turn the tree of life into tarot readings, if you want to do a reading. And if you do a reading about it, you're going to get so much information about yourself, your life, etc. Okay, next slide. Okay, this tree of life exists within ourselves. We hold this cosmic architecture of emanation within our bodies. We are a mirror of that tree of life, and the tree of life is a map of consciousness. It's a map of manifestation. It's a map of emanation. It is a map of catenation, and we hold it all within our own bodies. We are the universe. Okay, next slide. And this is one of the depictions. You are the walking tree of life. Okay, this is an early depiction of how it fits in our body. Most of the depictions today show the supernal triangle at the top of the head, and it goes all the way down the body. So in other words, it's elongated, but I like this picture. You are the walking tree of life, and it fills your body. Okay, the next slide. You are the cosmological hologram, and this shows how the tree of life fits over the tarot cards, these archetypal tarot cards, all of which we hold within ourselves. They're both inside and outside of us. And then when we look at the overlay of imagine the overlay on the overlay of a picture of you. And this is how it fits. Okay, so you can also use this, interestingly, and we'll talk about this another time, for healing purposes. Like, what if you have something going on in some part of your body? Well, look at the diagram of the tree of life, and you can start to see the spheres where it fits and what you might want to work on. Okay, so next slide. Okay, you are imbued with these powers, the architecture of the universe. You contain roots above and below. You contain the male pillar. You contain the female pillar. You contain all of the cosmological properties emerging out of the universe. You contain the powers of ethical discernment. You contain the power to create yourself, your own personality. You are creation completed. You are the 10th point containing all of it. You are the universe flowering in, of, and as itself, rooted above and below. You are the universe. in spirit. You are the universe in heart. You are the universe in mind. You are the universe in body, in the universe, as the universe, of the universe. Okay, next slide. Every iota of you is made of the universe, and you create the universe as you evolve. You are the universe. The universe is not out there somewhere. You are the universe unfolding. This is the cosmological Kabbalistic story. Okay, next slide. You are the emanation of the universe unfolding. You hold these powers. You hold the power to catenate the universe, to move the universe, to get the universe moving. How do you get the universe moving? Well, you're given a calling. You come in with a calling. That's the energy of the priestess. Open up to receive that, to receive your calling. And that calling creates the vibration. When you act on it, it creates the vibration that moves the universe. So, what song will you sing? And here, I just want to tell a really small story and try to keep it small. But when I was ordained, this is in 1993, when I got ordained after 5 years in the seminary, the day before the ordination, it was a Saturday, I went to a powwow. This was in Pennsylvania, Wyalusing, the Wyalusing Rocks, a sacred place in Pennsylvania. Went to a powwow, and I met with the chief of the Eastern Delaware Indians. Anyway, he was talking about the many ideas, but one of them was with the Eastern Delaware, there was the tradition that this is for boys, so I want to include girls here. But for the boys, what they would do is about age 15, they would go out on a vision quest, just go out by themselves into the forest, and they weren't allowed to return until they got a song. And when they received the song, they would know what their gift was, what they were going to contribute to the tribe, and they would understand their lives and their sense of belonging. Okay, so lo and behold, that night I did receive, he didn't charge me to do this, but I received a song. And my song had to do with life being a dream in the waking. Life is a dream in the waking, and you can dream into it. You can dream into this world, and what you dream into this world does materialize. That's you. What song will you sing? Okay, next slide. Your singular vibration sets the worlds in motion. No one has the same vibration you do. No one, nobody, no one ever in the past or in the future has the same unique constitution that you have. You are unique and you're necessary. You're needed. We need you. We need your vibration. We need your song. We need your wisdom. That's why you're here. That's why we're all different. So bring forth what it is you have, you are, and share it with us. We are longing for it. Okay, next slide. Okay, and I already talked about this. If you want change, take a trip up the tree. So start where you are and then begin to move up, up, up until you reach the cosmological triangle and take another look at how you believe the workings of the universe fit together. And when you change your views, it's going to change your ethical system. That's going to change your personality. And in the end, see, what you're doing here is you are looking again. You're looking again to again receive new universal energies, because you're asking for a vision. You're asking for a bigger vision, a wider vision, maybe a more personalized vision. So you ask for this, travel the tree, and you will be changed by this adventure. Your ethical system will change. Your personality will change. Your life will change. And here, travel back down. I'm reading this off the slide. Travel back down the tree of life with your new vision of the universe, a new constellation of ethics, a new vision of yourself, a new life in the making, new dreams in the making. Okay, next slide. Okay, and here we come to a tarot reading that we're going to practice with. We're going to ask, what is my great calling? We'll draw a card. Try this yourself. Consider the meaning of this card. What is your great calling? And then notice where this particular card, just one card, fits on the tree of life. Where does it fall in those triangles? Where does it fall in the four worlds? What does this reading tell you about your path or your destiny on this particular planet, right at this particular time? Okay, so we're going to play with that one. One card, where does it fit? How does it fit? So you can see all the potential of any particular card. Pick one card and see where it fits. And then this would be part 2, would be to take a journey up the middle pillar. Go further. What is my calling? And then try traveling up the middle pillar to revisit that supernal triangle. That supernal triangle, which holds your perceptions of the workings of the universe. And then you could create a triangular reading at the top of the tree that coincides with each aspect of the supernal triangle to learn more. So here's the way you can create a reading with that supernal triangle. Okay, I hope this shows you how you can create readings with any aspect of the tree of life. Any one of these aspects. You can do any one of those triangles. You can do any of the pillars. You can go more deeply and look at them. And obviously, you can do a reading with the whole tree of life. You can do the tree of what's called a tree of life reading, where you just do the 1 through 10. Or you can do a full-on reading and look at everything by filling in the whole tree with tarot cards that you are drawing. Okay, so this just gives you, this is the end point, really, of how all the cards fit on the trees. And then what happens if you take a random card and put it in a stationary position on the tree? For example, the number 1 point, Keter. So this has to do with original being and origination, the number 1. All right, you can just draw a card for that number 1, and you can ask the question, what am I originating? Or how am I original being? And you can let that flow. You know, you are emerging out of the cosmos as original being. Okay, so this gives us an example of tarot reading. And then let's go to the next slide. And here's where we just come to an end with this particular slideshow. So here's more information. So look at the Tarot of the Spirit sections in Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit, or Visionary Cosmology. And I also have a lot of YouTubes. I have YouTubes on the 1 through 10. You know, I have just all kinds of YouTubes that you can look at. Just look up on YouTube and you'll see what they are. All right. And then the next slide, and we come to an end for the day. Okay, so this is our last card. May we walk in beauty. And we can continually change the way we are walking in the world. If we want to walk in peace, I put my foot down in peace, then I am walking in peace. I put my foot down in peace. I put my hand down in peace. I put my head down in peace. Then my foot is in peace. My hand is in peace. My head is in peace. However you want to walk in the world, move in that direction through your intention and with your meditation. So that concludes our slideshow for today. So we'll stop right here and